So, as you guys might know, I have been in a new relationship for about 3 or 4 months now, and we actually met on Tinder. Yeah, probably one of the scariest things you could do is go on a first date. When you have anxiety, that is so difficult. Like, I remember it really well, how nervous I was. It was terrifying, and I'm still really surprised I managed to do it, but I think it's actually given me a bit more confidence and made me think, like, if I can go on a first date and meet somebody for the very first time that I've never met before, and go on a few dates with this person and not know them, I can do a lot of things. A little backstory, I was on Tinder for like a few months before I met Drew, and I didn't really go on any other Tinder dates because whenever I talked to a few people on Tinder when I was on it, and I always would open up about my anxiety, and while most of the time people were supportive and understanding, they weren't like the way that my boyfriend is, and he made me comfortable enough to go on a first date with him. Usually when I tell guys I had anxiety and stuff, they'd be like, okay, cool, so do you want to meet me in town? They'd be understanding up to a point, and then they'd be like, oh, why don't you want to meet me in town, just come and meet me, kind of thing. And they just wouldn't be fully understanding, which is fine because I don't expect people that haven't been through it to understand. It's not, but if I was going to go in a relationship with somebody, which is what I've always been looking for, yeah, I would want them to be understanding. When I was on Tinder, I was looking to have a relationship. I was looking for a serious relationship. I wasn't looking to meet up with people and hook up with them and like sleep with them. A lot of people use Tinder for that kind of thing, which is totally fine, and I think that's a good thing to do, but it's just not something I'm interested in. So I think that gave it a bit more like scariness because I was looking to have a long-term thing. Like, obviously I was looking for just like dates and to see if we got on. But yeah, the whole thing was very scary, and I've got some tips for if you are somebody that has anxiety that wants to start dating. This could be used for anybody that wants to start dating, but if you have anxiety and you think you can't date because of your anxiety, you are wrong. You can. I did it. If I can do it, anyone can do it. But these are some tips that I kind of learned through the process. So the first tip I have is to tell the other person about your anxiety. This doesn't have to be right away. This doesn't have to be literally in your first conversation. I can't really remember when I told Drew that I had anxiety, but obviously it's quite easy for me to tell people because they might say, what do you do? And I'll say, oh, well, I work in a bar and I also make YouTube videos. And they'll say, what do you make YouTube videos about? And I'll say anxiety. And they'll be like, all right, so you have anxiety. And I'm like, yeah. So obviously that's a really good segue for me to tell them. But even when I didn't tell people about my YouTube channel, because sometimes I'm nervous to tell people about YouTube because it's an unusual thing to do. Although a lot of people do it these days, it's still, I don't know anyone else in real life that does it. And especially when you're talking about mental health, it is something you don't always want to share with people because it's like wearing your heart on your sleeve and all that kind of stuff. So whenever I was talking to somebody on Tinder, I would always slide in the fact that I have anxiety, whether it's through telling them about my YouTube channel, or if it was, oh, I don't work more than 2 days a week because of my anxiety. Whatever it was, I would kind of test the waters by telling them, because if their reaction was, oh, I don't get it, or if their reaction was, I don't know, by the way they reacted to my anxiety would help me choose whether I wanted to go on a date with them or not. And there was a lot of people that I maybe liked, or I fancied, or I thought was like good looking and nice and funny, but when it came to my anxiety, they weren't understanding or empathetic, and so I wouldn't obviously want to go out with that person. I wouldn't want to be in a relationship with that person, so what's the point of dating them? So I always opened up before I went on a date with somebody about my anxiety so that they knew all the situation, and if they still chose to date me, then they knew everything. And if they chose not to date me, well, I didn't want to date them anyway. The next thing is, don't feel pressured to date. Whatever your reasons are for dating, whether it's because you want to meet somebody, because you want to just have some fun, whatever your reasons are, make sure you're doing it for the right reasons. Make sure you're not doing it because you're trying to get over somebody, because you're rebounding, because you feel like all your friends are in relationships, or your mum and dad are like, when are you going to meet somebody? whatever your reasons for dating, you need to make sure they are for you, because you want to meet somebody, because you want to have special experiences with somebody, because you want to add somebody into your life and to share happy moments with. Don't do it to try and complete yourself. I know this is getting into a more serious topic, but I was actually really fine with being single. I live on my own and I have a really nicely decorated, pretty flat that is very small and is perfect for me, and I was really happy in that space. And I invited Drew into my life and into my home, and it was great, but I would have been happy if he wasn't here too. It's not about trying to get somebody to make you feel better. It's about feeling okay with being by yourself and then adding somebody in to share that. That might sound really cringy. And there's nothing wrong with wanting a relationship. There's really nothing wrong with that. I wanted a relationship, but I was also happy on my own, and you need to make sure you're happy on your own before you invite anybody else in, because your happiness can't depend on somebody else. Even if you've been with somebody for 30, 40, 50 years, or you've been with somebody for 1 year, 1 month or whatever, your happiness can't depend on one person. You've got to depend on yourself for happiness. But yeah, don't pressure yourself into going on dates. If you feel like you're going on dates to make your mum happy or to make your friends happy or so that you're not on your own, you're dating for the wrong reasons. So don't feel pressured to be dating because you think you should. Be dating because you want to be. The next tip is to focus on that specific date and not anything else. Don't focus on the fact of whether you will be together. Don't focus on in 1 year's time, where will you be with this person. Don't focus on anything else except that one date, because the first date is the most terrifying thing ever. If you want me to do a video on the first date, then I'll be happy to do that and to share my experience of a first date and how I got through it. But you want to focus on how you're going to get through that date. Focus on everything from leaving your flat or leaving your home and walking to the destination where you're going to meet your date, and the things you're going to talk about. I actually, and I've not admitted this to my boyfriend, but I wrote down a list of things that I could talk about in case I got stuck, and I was just so nervous, so I just thought of all the things I could ask. I asked my friends, what do you ask on a first date? The people that I'd been on first dates. I prepared mentally. I was like, if I have a panic attack, this is how I'm going to cope with it. I'm going to go to the nearest pub and I'm going to go to the toilets and I'm going to calm down, or I can phone my friend, I can phone my dad, I can go home. I just sorted everything out, so I knew what to do in situations to get out of the situation and all that kind of stuff. But I was so nervous. But I only focused on that specific date, and it seemed to have worked because we're together now. I didn't think of whether there'd be a second date, because second dates are just as hard as first dates. I don't know why first dates get all the credit for being really difficult when second dates are worse. I think second dates are worse. The next one, oh, that's a good raspberry. The next one is to go somewhere that you feel comfortable. So with me and my anxiety, I have agoraphobia, which means that it's very hard for me to leave the small town that I live in. So for me to have to get on a bus for half an hour or an hour or something to meet him in town would have been really, really hard, and I probably wouldn't have done it. So before I met up with Drew, I asked if he could come down to where I live, and I chose something and somewhere for us to meet up that I was comfortable with, that was near where my friends worked, so that if I was really, really stressed, I could run into their work and speak to them. And it was also kind of near where my mum and dad live, so if I was really, really bad, I could have gone home. Don't let your date make you feel like you have to go halfway to meet them. Don't let them make you feel like you're being a diva or you're doing whatever. You know your boundaries, and if they're not comfortable with your boundaries, if they don't want to meet your boundaries, whatever it is, that's fine. There'll be somebody else that will be comfortable meeting you in your boundaries. I then very plainly stated, I have agoraphobia. I find it very difficult to go into town or to meet you halfway from both our houses. Could you come down and meet me in my hometown? My boyfriend was totally fine with that. He totally understood. Was very, very happy to meet me down here. So that's what we did, and I think that made a massive difference. If I was somewhere I was uncomfortable, the date wouldn't have gone well. If I was having to sit in a restaurant face to face, or if I was having to go to the cinema, which was half an hour away, whatever it was, I wouldn't have been comfortable and I would have had a panic attack and left and probably not wanted to speak to him again. So choosing somewhere that was close to home really helped. Another thing you could do is have a backup plan with a friend. You could, and it's the oldest trick in the book and everybody knows about it, but if your date was going badly, just generally, if you felt like you were starting to panic or get really anxious, or if your date was just making you feel uncomfortable, whatever it was, everybody has that deal with their friends or their mum or whoever it is to send a specific text. Say you send a blank text to your friend, that means they have to phone you with an emergency. I know it's like going to be so obvious to that date, but what can they say? If your friend phones you and they're like, oh hi, I've just broken up with my boyfriend, can you come and see me? You say to your date, I have to go and see my friend, her and her boyfriend just broke up. He'll know fine well what's happening, but at least you got out of that situation. Do you know what I mean? Or even if the date's going well, you could have a backup plan with a friend or a family member or something to be around the corner, so that if your date's going really well, right, this is hard to explain. I feel like I feel more comfortable when I know that there is someone near me that understands my anxiety and that would know what to do if I was having a crisis situation. So I chose to go on a date, my first couple of dates with my boyfriend, near where my best friend lives and works, so that if I was having a really bad panic attack, I could go and see her and she could help me get in a taxi or she could help me calm down or whatever it was. So I had that kind of deal with her of, okay, I'm going on a date with this guy on this day at this time, where will you be, so that I know that you're there to help me. Don't feel bad asking for help. Whatever it is, never feel bad asking for help, because your friends want to help you. They want to help you, just like you want to help them, and you'd love to help them if they were going on a first date. It's such a nice thing to be able to do, is to be able to help your friend go on a first date, because it's really exciting and you probably want all the gossip of it anyway. So that really helped me, knowing that my best friend was really nearby, and that if I was having a really bad time, whether it was on the date or whether it was just feeling anxious, I knew she was really close by. And the last thing I have to say is know that the thought of anything is always worse. The thought of going on a first date and meeting somebody for the first time is so nerve-wracking, but the thought of it is always the worst part. The worst thing that could happen is that you meet up together and you don't like him, or he doesn't like you, or you get anxious. Even if you do get really anxious and you end up having a panic attack on a date, it doesn't mean that it's going to be over. It doesn't mean that he's never going to want to speak to you again. If he's a nice guy, or if she's a nice girl, or whoever it is you're dating, they'll understand and they'll want to see you again. Just because you have anxiety doesn't mean they don't want to see you again. A decent person would understand. But yeah, I've just gone on for a good 15 minutes. But if you want to see me talk about my first ever date ever, whilst I had anxiety, then let me know down below, because I'd like to share that and I'd like to help as many people as I can get on Tinder and get dating. If you want to date, you certainly can. Like, don't feel like because you have anxiety or anything like that it means that you can't date and do things like that, because you definitely can. You might just need to do it in a different way. You might just need to do it with more boundaries in place and more safety in place, but I think you can definitely still do it, because I'm now very happy in a relationship, and hopefully it will keep going well. But anyway, there's green bits all over my raspberries. Anyway, thank you very much for watching this video. I hope it helped some of you, and I will see you soon. Bye!